Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next of the Foreman Community Demos. Gilvin here, and I'm going to be showing you through what we've got today. It's quite a reasonable schedule, I think. You'll note we've got some slides today, which is fantastic. One of our viewers pointed out that it's really hard to know who's talking and who they should ask in IRC afterwards. So we've got some introduction slides for each of the sections. First up it was going to be me, but I'm going to let Lukasz go first. So we're going to start with some bare metal provisioning from Lukasz. So I'm going to hand over to you, Lukasz.
Greg. So last month I had a nice journey to Poznan University, and I spent some time in a train, so I had some time, and I was hacking around discovery images and image-based deployment. I had this idea for some time, and I came up with a very small patch, which is now pending review. It's PR 4044, and it's, as you can see, it's like 30 lines or something, and it adds two options to do image-based provisioning. The first one is, the idea is simple. You have a discovered host, and you want to, put your image onto the block device. So if it's SDA or anything. And we have a couple of options. I've been thinking about doing something like OpenStack, mounting a remote device via iSCSI, or I was testing NBD, and actually I was comparing this with what we have now in the patch, and what's faster, what's not. Some of my outputs are on my blog and on the Foreman community blog, but this is I would say side effect. This patch is side effect of my research, and it's a different approach than a remote block device. It's actually option A is stream based, and option B is UDP, unicast multicast. So the idea is simple. You expose the block device by something, and in option A it's simple netcut with LZOP compressor, and then you send the image over the network via netcut. The LZOP, I was testing this with the gzip, and it turned out that LZOP is like 15 times faster. And if you transfer a nice raw image of several gigabytes, you'll end up with a lot of zero blocks. So it's very essential to use some compression. So this endpoint actually expects LZOP compression algorithm. It's everywhere in RHEL, Fedora, or all other distributions, so it's fine. And the way it works, there are a couple of systemd services, and using UDEV, it finds all the block devices and starts up services. They are running on a predefined port. So here's a small table for if that's SDA, the port, the TCP port is simply 13000. So you just send it to the port. In this case, I'm using this number because it's VDA. I was testing this with a KVM, and it works. And then you can just reboot into your newly installed system. And option B, and I'll show you in a minute, you can download any images from the internet, or you can create your own with tools like what I use is VertBuilder from libguestfs package from Red Hat and Fedora. And option B is interesting. When I showed this and discussed this with Ohad, he told me that that we are actually having some issues every year on Red Hat Summit deploying a whole class of workstations, because it's a time-consuming task to do this one by one workstation for like 30 machines. And I think guys last year they solved it with BitTorrent or something. But I was thinking like, okay, can we do better? Is there something better? And actually there is a package called UDPcast. It's again, it's a very old software. but it's still being maintained. The last release is like 4 years old or something. It's a small package, and it's just two tools: UDP sender, UDP receiver, and it's pretty obvious. You guessed it. You just you just launch a UDP receiver on the discovered host, and then you launch UDP sender on your any machine that it's on the network. And the key point here is if you launch the receivers, multiple receivers at once, and then you hit enter on the sender. It can be interactive or non-interactive. Then it's sends using a multicast UDP packet. So you're actually sending the image only once to arbitrary number of discovered hosts. So let me show you. So what I have here, if you see my screen, I hope, it's a discovered host. I canceled the discovery operation because it's not relevant here. This small patch only, is on the image itself. It doesn't add any interactivity in the text user interface or in the discovery plugin as well. So there's no. It's a concept that our community can just start using and tell us the feedback. So this is the. Sorry, this is the. Oh no. This is our discovered host, and here on this screen, I'll create a small image. I'm using Word Builder to build one. I'm using Seared OS, which is a super tiny Linux distribution. I think it only contains BusyBox and kernel and SSH daemon. So I'm creating of size 100 megs. Of course, as long as the image is smaller than the block device, it will work fine. You can expand the disk. Or if we somehow do some integration with the discovery plugin, we can take our facts, registered fact, the block device size, and then create the image on demand. But we have no integration in the patch at all. So I have the image here, 100 megabytes, and then I can show you the first option. It's simple netcut, so it's cat LLOP netcut to the destination, and it's fast as that. So it's just 100 of megabytes, right? And I can do it again because the systemd will respawn the service every time it receives the data. It will only error out if the image is larger than the block device, of course. Then we have a write error. And I didn't tell you that you need to explicitly enable those services. So in the kernel command line, the format of the options are described in the patch, in the description, in the pull request, because we are actually exposing. It's not for reading, but for writing. So we don't want to expose this for every single discovered host. You only need this. You only have that if you enable this. So I can repeat it as many times as I want. And now the second option, I have only one discovered host, and UDP sender actually, UDP cast actually uses unicast if you have just one-to-one, point-to-point communication. But I have tested this with multiple machines. It works great. So in this case, I need to specify interface because I'm using a libbird network. But it's as easy as that. I start a sender. The receivers are actually the only one receiver is already listening because I have enabled it again in the kernel command line, and I'm asked for to press and enter, and then the transmission is complete, and I can again do this once again. There are several concepts described in the UDP casts. You can perhaps put this into a cron every single hour. Your image server can stream out the latest version of your system, and every single host can be discovered host can receive that or something. There's no other integration than that. There's no API on the image that would reboot and do stuff. We don't have anything like that. So it's a very simple patch that adds this, and I hope someone will read that and comment that, and then we can put it into next image release and wait for our community what will the future look like. Questions? I'm done.
Wow, fantastic! That's pretty exciting stuff. I don't see any questions right now. I will monitor for any incoming questions. In the meantime, we'll move on to the next section of the demo. So we're going to have Stephen come and talk to us about some of the work that's been going on in remote execution. So, Stephen, it's over to you.
Hi. So we're busy underway with iteration 4 of the remote execution plugin. What I'm going to demo today is the command line interface. So there's some new APIs that are available in Foreman remote execution. There's also a new Hammer plugin for there's a new Hammer plugin that will come with iteration 4. So you can view the actual template.
Stephen, it's worth being aware that when you type, Google tends to automatically mute you, so we're losing your audio intermittently.
Okay. We'll not type while I'm talking then. Okay. So you can dump the template contents itself. You can also work with the template inputs. So with the remote execution job templates, you have the ability to set a number of inputs. So in the case of this one, which is the run command, you have an input called command. So you can actually view information about the template input itself. You can create a new one if you'd like. By passing the relevant options you need to do it. The most interesting thing about the Hammer plugin is that you can now actually start a job. So if I want to start a job to say, just run a command on a host, I can do this. Query is the same kind of search query that you give in the UI, so I'm going to do any host that by the inputs. So I need the command input. I'm going to just ping Google. You'll get a progress bar that will show you the current state. There's only one host, so it will be quite fast. You can also do async, like you can do with other. It's a Catello plugin. This will just exit immediately. So the invocation started, and you can move on. I can view the output of live while the execution is running. We've got a particularly large amount of data to send. You may not want to, if you want to send an actual long, complicated script, we have the ability now to use input files. So the command line, I can do input files. We'll do the same thing. That's it. This should be available next week or the week after with iteration 4. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed. Again, I don't see any questions just now, but hang around and we'll monitor to see if any turn up. So, in the meantime, we've got, on the theme of remote execution, we've got Adam, who's going to show us a bit about recurring actions that he's been working on. So, Adam, I'm going to switch over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to skip the introduction since Steven said it all. And let's get to it. Wrong screen. Oh, right. This is the correct one. So what we can see here is the new job invocation form for package action. I have filled some data to update my Ruby package. Please don't mind these two description fields. I'll get to them later in my demo. What we have here are radio buttons for the scheduling. The execute now and schedule future job were present for a while. The recurring execution was work in progress, but now it's merged and mastered. We have several possibilities how to define the intervals in which the job should be repeated. The default one is daily, where we can select the time when the job should be executed. The modes include hourly, where we specify only the minute and will happen every hour at that minute. Weekly, where we can select the days of the week and the time, and it will execute. Monthly, where we can select the days by their number in the month and the time. And cronline, which is the most advanced format, and there is a handy little explanation which describes what the fields mean. The recurring execution can be limited by the number of executions, so if you don't want your job to run till infinity, you can just say, hey job, stop after 5 repetitions, and it will stop. You can also say that you want the job to run only for a year, so you can, I don't know, set the year to 2016, and it will stop at whichever of these two limitations happens first. So if it's 5 times, it will stop. If it's 2016, it will stop. So I will start the job which will update my Ruby every 15 minutes. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Never mind. Sorry. Let's suppose the job started successfully, like the lot in here. So, if we inspect the job, which was started using recurring action, we can get to the details of the recurring logic itself. Just a moment till it loads. Yeah, here we have a tab, recurring logic, where we can see that last occurrence of the job was at 11:14, and there's no next occurrence because the job is already finished, because it reached the limit of the iteration. If you take a look at the recurring logic itself, we can see that it launched 10 job invocations, and if we click on that, we can get to the job invocations index and see which jobs were launched by that recurring logic. Another part in my demo, which is not strictly related to recurring logic, is those two fields. Before I added these descriptions, if you launched a lot of jobs and looked at the index, you would see just run command, and you wouldn't know which one was which and what they were doing. So for that reason, we added descriptions, that each job template has a description. So, for example, this is package action, and you can see that the template is action, package, and the package name. So if I say install Vim, we can see that the description is install package Vim. Now if we look into the applications index, we can see the descriptions in action, that we have update packages Ruby, run command true. You can also override the description template, and you can use names of the inputs in the curly braces, or you can input basically anything, which I did in here, where I have a job invocation with description fixed printers, which is a service action which restarts the cups daemon. Yeah, systemctl restart the cups. And that would be it.
Very, very cool. Okay, again, I'm very quiet on the questions today. Just take this opportunity to remind everyone that there's the Q&A app if you're watching on the Google Plus stream, or you can hop onto IRC and ask questions in #theforeman. So that's great stuff. So the next up is going to be Ivan, who's continuing again with the theme of remote execution. Very, very active plugin, this one. So Ivan's going to tell us all about the work we've been doing around effectively sudo support, right? So let's hear about that. Ivan, over to you.
Hey, I hope you hear me now. Before I jump into the sudo support, one thing that I want to mention around the recurring logic is that most of the stuff was done on the Foreman task side and is available for other use cases rather than just the remote execution, and it's meant to be reused in other places. So the remote execution is the first applied usage of this, but if you are looking for this logic in other plugins, you should look into the Foreman tasks. And now to the sudo support. So one requirement or need that some of our users have is ability to set up the template or the script to run as a different user as the one that was used for accessing the remote host. So, for example, if the simplest case is I use root for SSH to the remote host, and then I want to use other user to run the script, or maybe even better example is I use some service account for accessing the via SSH because I don't want to open the root access via SSH directly, and then this service account would have specified sudo rules for switching to a different user. So how does it work in the remote execution from the usage point of view? So I have here a simple template, just calling ID to see what user was used for the invocation, and in the job parameters we now have the effective user parameters where I can either enforce to use some value, which means this value would be, so if I turn this to off, it would mean that this script would always run as my username. Another option is to run as a current user. This is especially useful if your accounts in the Foreman match the accounts in the on the remote host, and you can enforce that the script can be run only as a user that was logged into the Foreman, so kind of delegation of the user rights. And the last option is if the user actually can override that. So if you want to enforce that, you would keep this off, but if you want for the user at the invocation time to have the possibility to change that, you would use the overridable flag. So I will turn on right now. So let's keep it configured this way, and now I will try to run this job on some user that I have, on some host that I have. So first, and I will use different users, so just to make the demo more complete. So I'm here logged in as my username, and if I go for run, or I would just choose the ID job name, by default I would get, or let me start with the new invocation so that you see the defaults as well. So I will go to run job. We have here the ID, and the effective user is now blank. But if I left it blank, it should default to the current user. So let's see if it does it. If not, there's time for debugging after the demo, as always. Okay, so you can see that it was really run as my user when I haven't specified anything else. And I can try to run as different user. And let's try to run as some missing user, so that I will use that message later. So as expected, this time different user was used for trying to run the command, and the sudo tells that the missing user is unknown. Why I'm using this demo right now is that we don't support only the sudo for doing this, because in some environments sudo doesn't have to be even available, but the switching to the users might be needed. So what you can do is on per host basis or in global in the settings choose which method of the effective user switching you want to use. So if I go back to my admin account, in settings, I have here opened, there is the remote execution effective user method, and it can be either sudo or su, and by default it goes to the sudo, and I can change that so I can have just set of hosts that doesn't support this way of switching the user. So what I can do is, let me just copy that over so that I don't do any typos, and I can enforce for this host for SU to be used instead. So when I try to rerun this job again against the same host, but the host has different parameters now, when I try to run as a missing user, I should get slightly different error message saying that not sudo but su was used instead. So this is pretty much all around the effective user / sudo support that we got in. The Foreman remote execution iteration 4 should end next week, and we should get the packages into the nightlies and 1.10 release branch as well. That's really it. Any questions?
Thanks very much, Ivan. I don't just see any questions right now, but I have one of my own actually. So just to clarify, the current user checkbox you were showing there, that's the login name of the currently logged in user to Foreman, right?
Yeah, currently we simplified that to the current user login. There might be additional feature requests for some more advanced logic around it, but we didn't want to complicate the first iteration here.
No, that makes perfect sense, especially if you're using something like FreeAPA or LDAP or what have you to synchronize all your usernames, right? So that's brilliant. Okay, I'll just have a quick look. I don't see any questions for you right now, so thanks very much. Next up, we have got Toma, who's going to be talking to us about what's been happening in our parameters UI. So, Toma, it's over to you.
Hello, everyone. We have finally got some long-awaited changes merged in the parameters UI. So now I'll show you the almost final version.
Could you make that a little larger, Toma? Because that's going to look quite small on the YouTube stream.
This is about as big as it gets.
that's probably just about okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm having some issues with my fonts at the moment, but I hope you can see approximately. This is a host group child, the parameter tab. First of all, in the Puppet class parameters and smart variables, we had the overrides, which I showed a preliminary version of in a previous demo, that had another button here on the side. This changed into a nice button add-on to the input group, so you can just override a value or remove an override, check use Puppet default or not, if that's a smart class parameter. If it's a smart variable, then there is no Puppet default, so you don't have the use Puppet default button. Another thing we have now is that values that are set as hidden in the Puppet class are shown as hidden here. If you have permission to edit them, then we assume that you can also see the value, so you can just unhide the value, and you can override it, you can hide it again. If you want to see the original value, you click on the info, and you can see the inherited value, the source, all description type, all the information you might want. If it's a hidden value, the inherited value will show up as just stars. So in case you aren't allowed to unhide and you attempt to see the inherited value, you wouldn't see anything. And a nice thing, small CV that I found recently that also got fixed is if you had a script in the description or something like that that actually got executed, and this got fixed and should be it is in develop right now and will be backported to 1.10 and possibly 1.9. So this is for the parameters. Also for host group parameters, host groups that had inherited from the parent parameters had a very different layout. You would have an input here for the name, and it looked kind of messy, so now it's all very similar, the same. It's the same as the host inherited parameters. Again, you can see more info. Global parameters obviously have less information since they don't have types or anything of that sort. And finally, for host group parameters or host parameters, you can set them as hidden or unhidden, and this actually saves the setting, whether you hide it or unhide it, since those parameters are attached to the specific host group or host. And I think that is it, unless there are any questions.
Thanks very much, Tomash. We do actually have a question. You're the first one. Well done, you. So Jeff is asking if there's any plans to extend parameters even further to do things like reading parameter descriptions from Puppet manifests and so on. Now, I'm fairly certain I know the answer to this, but I'll leave it to you to actually answer it.
Right now, the next step would be to make global parameters behave more like smart class parameters, so they could have types and validations and all sorts of nice features that currently class parameters and smart variables have. I think more extensions are on the map, but not currently planned.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. It's not a currently planned thing. The main issue is that so to give a little background for those who don't know, the proxy returns a big JSON hash of data that it reads from the manifests. So first thing you'd have to do is to update what the proxy returns, which is obviously a change. It's an addition to the API. It doesn't necessarily break because you could ignore the additional fields, but you do have some work to do on the proxy side before you can then consume that in the UI. So it would be a good thing to put into as an RFE if no one's done it before. Have a look through the bug tracker and do submit it if you don't find it. Thanks very much for the question. And thanks very much to you, Tomash, for the presentation. So,
I'm seeing on IRC another question.
Do we have another question? Oh,
yeah.
Ohad's got one for us. Even though he's here, he's not talking out loud apparently today. Yeah, if you want to show us how to hide class parameters as well, that would be great.
Of course, I'll show. If you want to set a parameter as hidden, go to the Puppet class, wait for it to load. And basically, you have the regular form for the smart class parameter. You just go under default behavior, check hidden value, or uncheck it. And that affects both this form and its display in hosts and host groups.
Just to confirm then, this is for 1.11, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks very much, Tomash. So, moving on, we are going to be having Tomash, if he's ready, who's going to talk to us about some of the Hammer stuff he's been doing. Tomash, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry,
There you are. There you
I
are.
just had to share my my terminal.
Wonderful. Off you go.
So, I will briefly talk about simple but important addition, and it's setting parameters for taxonomies. That means locations and organizations in Hammer. So, Hammer in an organization got new subcommands, set parameter and delete parameter, and you can use it for forms.
Don't forget, typing will mute your microphone. We're losing your audio.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I'll go quicker way. I actually have the commands prepared.
That's a good solution.
Copy paste them, yeah. So you can use set parameter to set the parameter. The same command just updates it if it's already existing for the resource. So I can change the value to some different. I'm going to check whether it's been set now. Yeah, the info prints names and values of the parameters. One disclaimer here: there's a bug in the API that sometimes doesn't return the parameters. So in the current master, it's broken. I'm working on fix for the API. So this what you see is actually patched server. So it's most likely that you won't see the results in the info command when you update parameters, but it should be good in the UI. Hope to finish the fix soon. So, and you can also, of course, also delete parameter. And it's gone. So that's all from my side. I will move over to Alan, who's got some more interesting stuff. By the way, all of this should be released soon in Hammer 0.5.0. That's it.
Cool. Thanks very much, Tomash. So yeah, as you already said, Alan's also got some further Hammer stuff for us. So let's move straight on to him, and then we'll get Hammer questions.
Okay, sure. Guys, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. That's good. And can you see my terminal?
Not yet.
Not
Hang
yet.
on. Yeah, go on. Try it again.
No.
Nope.
Okay, so I guess I don't have more interesting stuff than Thomas. 1 second, I'll try to redo it. Maybe I'll do the entire screen, and then you'll be able to see. 1 second. Now you can see my terminal.
Yes. Now I can. Well, I can see the whole thing now, actually. I think I was looking at the wrong person, which doesn't help. Yeah.
I got you. Okay, so basically I've added a little feature to Hammer that enable you to actually add the parameters by default to all the commands who are available to accept them. Now, this thing is possible in 2 ways. First thing is actually giving it a strict value, meaning let's say giving location ID equals 2. And another option is actually to get it from the server. We've added a small implementation of the defaults for the Foreman plugin, and then it can actually serve you location and organization ID based on the user your credentials are. Now, I think the easiest way to explain all of this is just to show you. So what I'm going to do...
Before you go any further, could you try sharing just the terminal again? Because we really do have both monitors, and it's absolutely tiny. I think the previous failure was my fault. So let's just see if it can be improved. Perfect. There we go.
Okay. Okay, so now it doesn't work for some reason. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let's change something over here. 1 second, sorry guys. This is stuck. One second.
The fun of the live demo.
Yep, happens. I got no idea why this isn't happening. So just in case, I've prepared an actual image that shows you the use case. 1 second, I'll just load it. I don't know why this isn't working.
A man who's prepared, I like it.
1 second. Okay, so I'll just share the image. Can you see the image?
Yeah, we can see that. It's a bit on the small side, but talk us through it.
Okay. So basically, what you see over here is actually I made the hammer user list command. As you can see, I got 7 records. Now, the addition is that you have the hammer defaults. Now, if you you actually type hammer default provider, you will actually get all the registered provider to your hammer CLI. In this case, it's actually Foreman. You're getting the supported defaults that the server can serve you, and you're getting the description of what type of arguments you're getting. Now, so as I said, you can get your defaults either from the server, or you can give it a strict value. Okay. When you're doing hammer default list, you will actually get the list of defaults you're currently using. Okay. Now, as you can see in the next command, you got hammer defaults add. You give it a param name, and you can either give it either a provider or a strict value. Like you can see in the organization ID, I actually gave it the provider Foreman. And in the location ID, I actually gave it a strict value. And now after adding it, you will actually have those. 1 second. You will actually have those values set when you're doing the. 1 second. Okay, so you will actually have the default values. As you can see, organization ID, because we said that it's using the provider Foreman, then you can see the value is actually provided by Foreman. With the location ID, you have a strict value, which is 1. If I'll rerun the hammer user list command, you will actually see less records. That's a result of using those default values while running the command. And that's basically it. Now, the whole interaction, it works by adding a YAML file to your home directory.hammer, which means you can actually make it work for each user separately from one another. And the whole interaction with the file is using the commands. You can either add or delete or list them, and that's pretty much it. Now, I tried it like a million times before, so I don't know why it isn't working, but apparently things happen.
It's the law of the demo. Someone's always goes wrong. And apologies to the viewers who saw Adam's screen for half of that, but at least you didn't miss something that was working. So we do have one question from David, who wants to know if this works for plugins as well. If can he set an organization and a location ID and filter, say, Catella models?
Okay, so basically we kind of made an interface, which is a basic provider. Every plugin that you add to Hammer can actually implement a default class, inherit the default provider, and then it will actually be listed as a provider in the provider listing, and it could also serve defaults if you add them.
Cool. So the answer is yes, but you have some work to do.
Yeah, but basically we already implemented for the Foreman plugin. Honestly saying, it's really easy to add another in case you want.
Marvelous. Okay, thank you very much.
Greg, Alan, if I may just add something to the answer. The question was whether plugins can use the provided defaults right away, not only to register their own providers. Then the answer is yes. It works for every command that is based on API bindings. So, sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. Thank you for correcting me. It's worth bearing in mind that I like that, right? Because I don't always necessarily understand the question, never mind the answer. So so thank you for that clarification. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming up just now, so that just leaves me. Yay. So I wanted to. It seemed only right to do an update from the community side in the community demo. So I wanted to just run you through a couple of things that are happening in my area. So some updates. If you haven't already heard, the Foreman blog has been moved to Markdown. And is open for contributions. We've had some very high quality stuff coming in already. We've got guest posts from around the community as well as from within the core Foreman dev team. If you have any content you would like to publish on the blog, I'll just point out Chris Pisano from our recent case study gave us a high availability blog, which was lovely to see. So if you do want to submit a blog, you can do that on GitHub. You can come here to the foreman.org repo and there is a section on contributing a blog post. Please do. In terms of content, I'd love to know what other content people want to see. We've had some fresh deep dives, some fresh case studies, fresh blog posts. If you have any ideas for material you'd like to see that I should follow up, please get in touch with me. That would be great. Talking upcoming events, FOSDEM is obviously just around the corner at the start of February, end of January. If you're coming with us, if you're going to meet us there, don't forget there is a Foreman meal which is planned. You'll find details. I should have had it on here, but I've lost it. So I'll see if I can pull it up. No, it's not in my history just now. Okay, there was a FOSDEM meal on the Saturday night. There was a Google Plus event. Please sign up if you would like to be there so that I can book a restaurant for us. If you're further coming on to Config Management Camp and you don't have a ticket yet, it's currently a waiting list, so get yourself on the waiting list if you don't have a ticket. If you're staying on as far as Config Management Camp, it's worth knowing that we've got our first, what you might call Contributor Summit. We're calling it a Construction Day because that's more fun. So we're going to have a hack session on the Wednesday. That's the 3rd of February. Do come and join us for that. Tickets are free, but it is ticketed so that we can do a bit of catering. And if you're staying that long, there's also DevConf at the end of the following week in Brno, and I will be there along with some more of the Foreman people. So that's worth knowing about as well. And finally, if you're not aware of the discussion, we've been talking a little bit about how to improve pull request reviews within the Foreman dev community. If that's something you're interested in and want to read more about what we're planning to do in that area, there is a blog post that I've written about it, which links through to the discussion that was had on the dev mailing list. In short, we're going to try and attribute reviews properly to people, and we're going to try and make it easy to find what reviews need attention. So if you're just getting started in the dev community and you'd like to understand the code base better, not a terrible idea to think about doing some reviews. We're not suggesting that everybody has to review everything. You can take some load off the more experienced reviewers by covering the easy stuff. If that's something that's interesting to you, it's worth knowing that under the Community tab we now have a Foreman handbook, and the handbook covers things like how to do code reviews. So even the basic stuff of checking style and so on and so forth can be worked through as a new reviewer. So I think that's everything from me. And everything from everyone, I believe. So thanks very much to all the presenters today for all your hard work. Thanks very much to the community for tuning in and continuing to use the project. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks very much.